Well, hello and welcome to the Pen to Publish podcast from the two Alexas. If you're penning and publishing or even just planning to pen and publish, you're in the right place. I'm Alexa Whitten, author, typesetter and independent publisher, and
I'm Alexa Tewksbury, author, editor and proofreader. You can never have too many Alexas. We love getting feedback, so do please review and subscribe. And we also have a group full of like-minded writers, which you can join over on Facebook and get your writing results happening. It's called the Writers Refinery, and the link will be in the show notes that accompany these podcasts. So let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to the Pen to Publish podcast, Series 5, Episode 2. Now, today I'm very excited about this episode as it's a very important one in regards to your book publishing status. And last week I hinted at a secret ingredient that elevates your book from being published to being published. And actually, this reminds me of a scene in Casino Royale where Vesper, that's the Bond girl, if people haven't seen Casino Royale, is laying out a dinner jacket for Bond to play in at a very important poker game. And Bond has just told Vesper what to wear, obviously, a rather revealing dress so that, she distracts the players. I guess it's a nod to the old Bond films where it's all a little bit sexist,
A bit.
Exactly. And Vesper just raises her eyebrows as if to say, yeah, whatever. And then Bond goes into his room to see that Vesper has done exactly the same thing. But this time, she's laid out a tailored dinner jacket. He's absolutely speechless. And she replies with, there are dinner jackets and dinner jackets. This is the latter. And then repeats the same quip about him needing to be seen as though he belongs at the card table. It's really funny. But anyway, I know I digress. But this secret ingredient will take you from being published to being published. So to quickly recap from our last episode, hopefully I explained what publishing means and the fact that, all it is getting your book ready for sale, basically by printing it. Well, the important bit, which gets this book seen and saleable online and in bookshops, is this, and that is the ISBN. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be talking about what an ISBN is, what that means if you're traditionally publishing, where to get them if you're self-publishing, and some of the myths associated with ISBNs and your legal obligations when you have one. There are legal obligations to having an ISBN. Did you know that, Alexa?
I didn't know that. No, because my books were traditionally published, I never even gave that part a thought. And obviously that's not part of the process that I'm involved with at all. But I know that you've said there's a lot of admin when you're a publisher. So I should have guessed that, really.
Yeah. So there is a legal obligation. But I'll be explaining about that later. Now, one quick thing. It's a bit like my typeface versus fonts. It's not called an ISBN number. Because an ISBN stands for International Standard Book Number. So if you were to call it an ISBN number, you would basically be saying an International Standard Book Number.
Oh, yeah, it's the initials are so confusing. And in case you're thinking, how can there be that much to talk about with an ISBN? But, it's just a little thing on my book. But there's actually a lot. When I read Alexa 2's notes, I was amazed. And also, if I can just add, purely aesthetically, when she's typesetting, Alexa 2 makes that ISBN look really good on the back cover. And that might sound silly because it's a tiny detail, but it's the details like that that give the book its professional finish. She really designs its little box and has the publisher name or a little icon or something, but it always looks great, that bit on the back cover.
Yeah, I think we talked about ISBN boxes didn't we talk about that in our last series?
We did, yes.
Yeah. So I kind of like to, instead of just slapping the barcode on the back, which is what your ISBN gets turned into, this barcode so that people can scan it. I just like to make the box look a little bit more professional, so it doesn't look quite so self-published. Now, It's basically a 13-digit number. And funnily enough, it used to be a 10-digit number, but that got changed in 2007. I think they ran out of numbers, basically, because there are so many books out there. And it's a bit like your car reg license plate, if you want a good analogy. So this number identifies your book and holds all of the book information, just like your car reg does. So your car reg gives the information of the color of the car, the model, type, etc. So does the ISBN. So things like title, author, size of book, how many pages. There's also 2 ways of registering your ISBN as well. So there's the free standard listing that comes as standard, as I said, and then there's the enhanced service listing, which again, I'll talk about in a bit. Now, as I said earlier, these listings come with a legal obligation, and it's very important that you follow these requirements. But again, I'll be talking about what those legal obligations are in a minute. What it's also is good to remember is that you can publish a book without an ISBN. Not having an ISBN doesn't mean that you are not published. I think I've said about 3 negatives there. Basically, you can publish a book without an ISBN, but, and here's the caveat, if you want to maximize where you can sell your book, then I would highly recommend you get one. Now, there are a few exceptions, and again, I'll go into those a little bit later. Also, I'll be talking about a few of the ISBN myths that people have amassed over the years. I mean, I don't know where people get some of their information because it's mind-boggling. So I'll be explaining what some of those are because it's important to know what is right and what is wrong. Now, of course, if you're publishing traditionally, like you have, Alexa, then you won't need to worry about any of this detail because it's all taken care of. But you might find it useful to know what goes on behind the scenes, especially if you decide to then self-publish, perhaps down the line, if your traditional publishing agreement comes to an end, or you move publishing companies. It's kind of good to know what happens behind the scenes. So the first thing is, do you need one? Well, as I said before, if you're planning on selling on third-party websites, and that's the key there, like Amazon or Waterstones, then yes, you will need one. If you want to sell your book in bookshops, then you'll need one as well. However, if you're only planning to sell directly, as in family and friends, or through your own website, then you might not need one. Having an ISBN means nothing in terms of publishing status, and it doesn't affect your copyright status either. And that's one of the myths I'm going to be talking about. Your book is copyrighted regardless whether or not you have an ISBN. The other one is if you're only selling your book on Amazon, then you can look at their free ISBN option. However, it does mean you can't sell it anywhere else. So you can't print off author copies and then sell it in bookshops, for example, or your own website. So do make sure you know where you're selling your book before you get your ISBN. If you decide not to get one, then you can always get one later. If you decide to change your mind, doesn't matter. But if you get a free one from Amazon, then I'm not sure if you can republish with one of your own. So do take a look at their small print on this. I would say, if in doubt, get your own. But if you know you're only going to be selling on Amazon and nowhere else, use one of their free ones. Now, if you've decided you're going to get one, you have a couple of options as to where you can get these. You can obviously have the free one that I've just described from Amazon, but it comes with restrictions, so be careful. You can go to Nielsen's directly, and I've put a link in the show notes. Nielsen is the UK ISBN agency, and they supply all of the UK's ISBNs, including ones that go to traditional publishing houses. And for people who are listening overseas, in the US, it's Bowker. They are the US ISBN agency. And I don't know who the Canadian one is. I should know because we've got quite a few listeners in Canada, don't we? I don't know who the Canadian ISBN agency is, but I tell you what, I'll look that up and put it in the show notes. I just don't know what it is to be talking about here. Now, how this all works is described in my very recently published mammoth article, and it is on my Compass Publishing website. I'll link it to it in the show notes, and it goes into even more detail about how ISBNs work, where to get them from, and how hybrid publishers, etc., use them as well. And I have to say, it took me a few months to get my head around all of this because it's quite complicated.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I didn't know there was so much to know about an ISBN, and I think a lot of first-time publishing authors would be very surprised.
Yeah,
particularly as you say, the legal requirements, because it's, as you say, it's a barcode is how we think of it.
Exactly.
But yeah, fascinating.
So, to put simply, whoever owns the ISBN is the publisher. Now, I'll try and explain this simply. Nielsen sell them, right? So you or a publishing company buys them. Whoever this is the publisher. So if you buy directly, which you can do, you will need to give a publishing name to Nielsen when you do this. This name is then the publisher of your book. If you come to me, Compass Publishing UK, I've bought the ISBNs from Nielsen, and I've attributed Compass Publishing UK as the publisher. So that means Compass Publishing UK is the publisher. This is the case when you get traditionally published too. Say, for instance, Penguin take up your book. Penguin will have bought the ISBNs from Nielsen, so Penguin will be the publisher. Some people are a bit confused with that. And even when they've obtained an ISBN from me, somehow they think they are the publisher, which of course isn't the case.
So you say you've bought ISBNs from Nielsen. So do you do that per book, or do you have a stock of them and then people buy them from you?
That's a really good question. So you can buy them either as an individual. So you can buy one from Nielsen, and I think it's £97 for one. You can buy a block of 10. So if you know you're going to be publishing more than one book, you can buy a block of 10. And I think that's £140, I think. So it's much cheaper to buy a block of 10.
Yeah, much cheaper.
And then the next amount of ISBNs you buy is 100. So you buy them 1, 10 or 100. So obviously I think I've bought over 300 now.
And so when an author comes to you for you to publish, they pay you for that ISBN.
So what I do is I charge, obviously, an author for an ISBN, the ISBN part of the publishing package, because there's so much admin to do. There's so much admin to do with that. Mm. But because it's my ISBN, because I bought it from Nielsen, I then am the publisher. If an author comes to me and they're like, I don't want Compass Publishing being my publisher, I'm like, not a problem, but you'll have to go to Nielsen direct and buy the ISBN and then give it to me so that I can typeset it.
And is there, like you said, if you can buy 10 at a time, so if an author thought they were writing picture books and they thought maybe there was some possibility that within 3 years they could have written 10 picture books.
Yeah.
If they've bought those 10 ISBNs to save themselves money at the beginning, is there an expiry?
No.
Or do they don't ever expire? Once you've bought them, they just last forever?
Ever.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Really good questions there. Yeah. So they don't expire, basically. No. They don't expire. So yeah, it's quite complicated to get your head around. So hopefully this is why this episode is going to be quite long, because I'm trying to explain everything. But so you can obviously get your ISBNs from someone other than Nielsen's or me, because there are a ton of hybrid vanity publishers out there, right? You know, we've heard of them, right? There are other vanity publishers out there. But whoever you get yours from, if it isn't Nielsen direct, then please do your due diligence and make sure that these vanity hybrid publishers aren't just wanting money and don't do anything, because there are some really shady companies out there, some of which charge thousands to help publish, and I'm doing air quotes, your book. only to scam you out of a lot of money and do very little to help. Especially the ones that hustle you to make a quick decision. I really hate those kind of people that go, you know, give me £3,000, I'll publish your book, but I need an answer by tomorrow. Otherwise the deal's off the table. It's like, why are you in a hurry? You know?
Yeah. I mean, you do have to be on your guard, don't you? Because again, as a first-time author, you're going to be relying a lot on what you find on the internet. So contacts you find, agents, publishers, all that kind of thing. And last series, we heard from Rachel Rowlands when we interviewed her in the last episode, how you need to make sure you don't get scammed by agents who want to charge a fee for reading your book. No, so if you send your book to an agent and you get a reply saying, yes, I'm happy to look at this, it'll cost you so much, that's a big red flag warning. So it really does pay to be extra careful with every publishing step, and maybe direct your questions to people that you can see have been reviewed well, or go to somewhere like the Chartered Institute of Editing and Proofreading, go to somewhere that's a proper professional body, writing associations, that kind of thing, who can answer those questions for you, rather than just maybe picking people randomly out of Google, because that work, just, I'd hate to see you lose your money.
I agree. And also, don't go with the cheapest option. Seriously. And also, some of the money that they're charging is astonishing. Please do your due diligence. So anyway, hopefully that's covered what an ISBN is and how that affects where you can sell your book, and who the publisher is, obviously, depending on your choice of where you've actually got the ISBN from. Oh, and by the way, when you give your publishing name, it doesn't actually have to be a registered company. It can be just a made-up name. There isn't anything official about this name. That's something else people get confused about. Compass Publishing UK, for example, isn't a separate company from the Book Refinery. Like, I just, on my tax return, I just say that the Compass Publishing UK trades as the Book Refinery Limited. So just because you're an author, you don't have to set up a company to set up this publishing company, because it's just a name. So you can just make up your own name for this. If you're going to be selling other things under that same, obviously, if you're going to be selling other things under that same name, and you have to declare your income and tax returns and all that, then maybe that's where you go down that line. I'm not saying try and avoid the tax man if writing is a profession for you. Obviously, you might need to declare your income, obviously, but the publishing name that you give Nielsen's does not need to be a registered company. I just thought I'd slip that in there. Right, so let's look at now what you need to do once you've obtained your ISBN. So if you've bought one directly from Nielsen, here are the next steps. The next thing you're going to need to do is register it, right? Because Nielsen have given you an ISBN, but they have no clue what your book is about. So this is done through their PubWeb portal, and Nielsen will give you this access when you purchase your ISBN. So once your book is printed, you'll need to then register your book so that Nielsen can then update that ISBN with all of the book's details, kind of exactly like when you register a car reg plate. You'll get asked for things like publication date, availability, price, author name, other contributors, size of the book, number of pages, etc., etc. It's like linking all of your details to this ISBN. You'll need to classify your book as well. So what genre it is, whether it's fiction, children's poetry, diaries, and they use the BIC identifier system. Again, it's all within the PubWeb platform, and you'll be able to select from there. Once you've registered your book, you will then need to make your legal deposit. Now, registering your book triggers a whole load of things that happens behind the scenes. I'll talk a little bit more about what that is, but here is your legal obligation that I talked about right at the beginning. All registered ISBN need to then have a deposit, a catalogue deposit in the British Library. And you'll probably notice at the beginning of the book on the title verso page, that's the page on the other side of the title of the book, it says a catalogue version of this book is available at the British Library. And That's what the legal obligation is. You have to send a book to the library. Actually, what usually happens is that you actually have to deposit another 5 books as well to Scotland. Now, again, this is all a bit confusing for authors because you don't legally have to provide Scotland with 5 copies, but they like to have 5 copies. And generally what will happen is once you've made your deposit to the British Library, you'll get a letter from the Scottish Library requesting 5 additional copies. So I just send 6 copies straight away rather than waiting for this letter. The details of all of this obviously will be given to you as well when you make your purchase with Nielsen. And obviously, if you use one of my ISBNs, I give you the details of this as well. If you get your ISBN from a traditional or hybrid publisher, then this all should be done for you.
And when you talk about making a legal deposit, you're literally just packaging them up and sending them off in the post.
Yeah.
Is that's what
Yeah.
you're doing?
Yeah.
And the libraries in Scotland, that's to one library or 5 separate libraries?
You send one, you package up 1 book and it gets sent to the British Library. And then you package up 5 books, send it to Scotland, and it's I can't remember the mnemonic for it. The ADHL, I can't remember the mnemonic. You send 5 books to Scotland and they then distribute to Wales, Ireland, Scotland, Oxford and Cambridge, I believe. So yeah, that's where it gets distributed to.
Right. That's such a strange thing, isn't it? To have to do.
Yeah, which is why I always say, before you get an ISBN, really think about whether or not you need one. Because if you're only selling directly, say you're producing a beautiful hardback version, right? Let's say you're producing a gorgeous picture book and you're only going to get 25 copies produced. It's basically for your own project. It's for your own vanity project. Don't go and get an ISBN and register it, because 6 of those books you then have to give away for free.
Yeah.
And if you've no intention of selling it anywhere, you don't need an ISBN. Anyway, so when you register your book, and if you've bought them directly, if you have less than 10 ISBNs, then you can apply for an enhanced service that is free. And the enhanced service allows you to give more information about your book. So basically, when you get an ISBN, you get a free listing as standard, but it gives a very limited amount of detail about what the book is about. So when Nielsen then share this data with other websites, it's very limited detail. If you have the enhanced service, which if you have less than 10 ISBNs is you can apply for free, I think in the first year, then you can add a synopsis, you can add table of contents, you can add a lot more detail. I've just added this as an extra for my authors, but obviously it costs me money. So every single title that's live, Nielsen charge me per book to have that enhanced service as an added extra. So, but I think it's worth it because then it allows a synopsis and etc. to be shown on third-party websites. Now, at the beginning, I talked about extra steps that you need to take once you've registered your book. And this extra step is this. You need to basically, right, it's quite complicated how this then works. This is why my mammoth article is all about what explains it. So when you register your book with Nielsen, this then information filters through to other third-party websites like Amazon, Waterstones, and Gardners. And Gardners are the book distributor in the UK. But what you now need to do is you need to make sure that you link Waterstone, you apply for a trading relationship with Waterstones if you want it to appear on their website. So if you haven't bought it from me and you haven't bought it from a traditional publisher, if you bought it yourself, you will need to set up that relationship with Waterstones. You'll also need to go to the gardener's website and make sure that your book is listed there as well. It's extra steps that you have to take, and this is why buying your own ISBN can cause so many headaches, because there are so many different things you need to do. It's a shame that you can't just register your book at Nielsen and then everything else is taken care for you. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So you will need to apply for a trading relationship with Waterstones, and there's a handy link on my website, which I will also put in the show notes. And then Gardeners, who are the distributor for the UK, you'll need to make sure that your title appears as a special order line. Otherwise, it'll appear as not available to order. And the reason why you want Gardeners to have that information on their website is because if someone goes into a bookshop, and bookshops are supplied by Gardeners, you need to make sure that the bookshop can order your book through Gardeners, because that's how they get their special orders in. Your book isn't going to be available in Waterstones if you're self-published, obviously, because that's not how it works. But if someone wants to go into Waterstones and order your book, you need to make sure that the bookshop can order your book through their distributor, which is Gardeners. I hope that's explained it. Does that make sense to you, Alexa?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And so helpful that you're giving a link, so people have a link to take them to Waterstones so they can set that up. That's really useful.
Yeah. It's just so complicated. And unfortunately, because Gardeners are the only distributors in the UK, if you don't have your book listed properly with them, that could really hinder your ability for bookshops to then order your books. But anyway, right. Let's look at some of the myths surrounding ISBNs and what that means. I've already mentioned the whole copyright issue. An ISBN has no bearing on your publication status. You can still be published and you can still call yourself a published author if you don't have an ISBN. And your copyright isn't affected either. Your copyright is not linked with having an ISBN at all. I mentioned that title verso page. That is where you declare your copyright information about the book. So that's the page that basically gives you the copyright. And in the UK, copyright is automatically granted. In the US, I believe you have to actually apply for copyright, I believe. It's not automatically given. But for my US authors, you'll need to double check that. But in the UK, it's automatically given. You don't technically need an ISBN for a Kindle version of your book, although, of course, Nielsen like it if you do, obviously, because Nielsen's will sell more ISBNs. However, you will need an ISBN for any different edition that you have. For instance, a hardback will need its own ISBN. A softback will need a different ISBN. Or if your book comes in different sizes, I don't know if you know, you can get different size books. Sometimes you can get a larger size book and then 2 months later, a smaller size will come out of the same title. Well, if it's a different size, you need a different ISBN.
And you need a different one if you first publish in hardback and then publish in paperback. You then need a different one.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So even if you're reprinting a book with the same title, but it comes in a different edition, as in a different format, then you need an ISBN, a new ISBN. If you're reprinting a book and more than 20% of it has changed, then you need to get a new ISBN as well. And this includes if the book title has been changed. The best way that I was described, if you need a new ISBN, is if a person buying it doesn't recognize the book or there's more information in there than the first one, then you'll need a new ISBN. So say you have a book called ISBN for Beginners and it's 250 pages and you want to change the title of the book to ISBN for All New Authors, but you want to keep the content the same, you'll still need to get a new ISBN. Publish Your Way to More Clients, that's my book. I did a second edition and I added more stuff. So lo and behold, I got a new ISBN for it, but I put also a little sticker on the cover that said second edition. As I've mentioned before, this ISBN will need to be listed then on your title verso page. And I will give a link on the show notes to what a title and title verso page is, in case you're not aware of that. And I have a handy link for a template of what they need to look like. Also, don't forget, if your book has been published by someone else at an earlier time, then you'll need to declare that on that title verso page as well. So you'll need to say first published in 1980 and then give the publisher's name.
Wow. Well, for everyone who's listening, I hope your brains aren't smoking as much as mine is. That's a lot to take in. We did say at the beginning, didn't we? How, you're sitting there thinking, oh, it's an ISBN, but seriously, there's ISBNs and there's ISBNs. We'll go back to that.
There's being published and then there's being published.
Published, yeah. But that is a lot to take in. So if you're at the point of thinking about an ISBN for your book, don't be put off. Just listen to the episode again.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, I don't know about you. I feel as if I've just been in a maths class for the first time in, I won't say how many years, but a lot.
I know.
And also that article, I love listening to things. I love listening to podcasts, but I also like to have it all laid out in front of me, so that I can return it and read it and highlight stuff and get it straight in my head. So do go and have a look at that article that Alexa 2 has written. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a complex issue, and I do understand why people get confused at this point, because there's so many things that you need to do once you've published once you've printed your book. There's a knock-on effect then with what you then do with the ISBN and how that then affects your book sales. And I mean, I've been in this business for how long? 15 years? And I'm still getting to grips with, I didn't realize this. In fact, I only found this out couple of weeks ago. I assumed, and we all know what assumptions do, I assumed that Gardners, who are the UK distributor of books in the UK, I assumed Gardners got all of their information from Nielsen. You would think, right? You would think they would. You would think those two people would talk to each other.
Yeah.
No, they don't. And the other thing is, when you register your ISBN, you also need to upload your front cover. Now, this front cover needs to be a digital version of your front cover. You can't just take a photo with your smartphone of your front cover. It has to be like one that the designer has created for you. And you have to name that cover as your ISBN. So you give it the 13 digits. It either has to be a JPEG or a PNG, and it has to be RGB, not CMYK. I know we talk about CMYK a lot, about that's the color profile for print, but of course Nielsen want this for their website, so it's RGB. And then you need to submit that as well. Now, Nielsen then, right, has all of the book details with the book jacket. Gardners, even though they've got room for a book cover, do they take the information from Nielsen? No. So you have to submit separately your cover to Gardners as well. Like we don't have enough to do. So do double check that as well if you're buying your own ISBN from Nielsen. Okay. So anyway, I hope that's cleared up a lot of stuff. Next week, we're going to be looking at whether or not your manuscript is ready to go. So you'll be hearing a lot more from Alexa 1 rather than me, because that's her area of expertise.
Allegedly. Yes. So if you want to have a go at traditional publishing, there are things that you need to get right to make your submission stand out. So I'll talk to you about that next time.
And you're going to be talking about getting your manuscript ready to go if you're self-publishing as well, because obviously that is your area of expertise. So that's enough from me. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you back here next time for episode 3. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.